Today on Pro Church Daily, we're talking about 5 ways churches plan on reaching Gen Z.
Well, hey there, and welcome to Pro Church Daily, the show where in 10 minutes or less you'll get your daily dose of tips and tactics to help your church share the message of Jesus while we try and navigate the biggest communication shift we've seen in the last 500 years. I'm your host, Alex Mills, joined as always by the boss man, it's Brady Shearer, and today we're going to talk about 5 ways churches plan on reaching Gen Z.
Who is Gen Z, Alex?
I don't know.
Well, according to Barna, they are those born between the years of 1999 and 2015. All generations are defined a little bit differently.
Right.
But they're all, they're pretty similar. So those born between 99 and 2015, making the oldest members of Gen Z entering college this year.
Okay.
Which means we're right on the cusp of a brand new generation. If you thought the millennials were bad, we'll just wait till you get to Gen Z.
Yeah, and this is probably a good point to stop talking about millennials because we're old enough and we're all working. We own homes, we have kids, and we should probably start talking a lot more about Gen Z because anyone that's 18 or younger, they're part of that generation. They're entering the workforce, they're going to college, and these are the people, these are the kids that are watching YouTube in record numbers. These are the kids that are making up your youth groups, and so we're talking about it.
I agree. Let's start with this episode of Pro Church Daily. There was a great Facebook thread in the Church Communications Facebook group, which I highly recommend you join if you're not already a part of, and it was prompted by a buddy of mine, Kyler Nixon, and the question posed in this Facebook thread was simple. Gen Z is here. How is your church planning on reaching them? And so I wanted to dedicate this episode of Pro Church Daily pulling out 5 of my favorite responses from this thread. It was incredibly inspiring seeing how churches have already begun thinking through this, and I think there's a lot that we can learn from what other churches are planning to do, take what we like, and begin implementing it ourselves. So the first response comes from another buddy of mine, Jonathan Malm, and he said this, quote, "Here's something I was talking to my pastor about. Any church that encourages the dreams of its people will be relevant to whatever next generation is coming up. Understanding the opportunities that are available to current generations and then encouraging those opportunities, not making them have to pay their dues. Wow. Offering them chances to contribute with their passions to the church, valuing their unique perspective on life, and giving that a platform. Not necessarily the platform, but an outlet." Wow. And we talked recently on an episode of Pro Church Daily about things that your church can focus on that won't be changing over the next decade. Right. I feel like things are changing so much. I just figured out millennials, or I didn't, and now Gen Z is here. Oh my goodness. And I think what Jonathan says here is very, very apt because it's essentially saying everyone wants to feel valued. And if you give people an outlet, if you give young people an outlet where they feel like they have some autonomy, where they're valued, where they are contributing and making a difference, where they're achieving and they're not just paying their dues, that's a great way to empower young people. And Alex and I are both great testaments of people that were empowered by older mentors who gave us a chance regardless of whether we deserved it or not. And without those chances, we wouldn't be here.
Yeah, I mean, if you're waiting until the younger generations in your church are, quote, ready, unquote, or until they've, quote, paid their dues, unquote.
Or, quote, paid their tithes.
Yeah, wow. That's a hot take. We'll talk about that on another day. But it could be too late. You could miss it. There's gold in there. There's diamonds inside of those kids, and you just have to call them out and give them an opportunity before you even think they're ready, and watch them grow in it, foster that growth. And like Jonathan said, I want to quote him directly. He said, if you encourage those dreams, you'll be relevant for whatever next generation is coming up.
Yeah, so that's not even just for millennials or Gen Z. Yeah. It's for every generation, every young person.
Yeah.
Second comment, we are currently trying to figure out how to leverage YouTube to better reach this generation with fun types of content, Fortnite, dance-offs, food challenges, channeling existing trends, etc. YouTube is the second largest search engine in the world. It is the second most visited website in the world, even more so than Facebook.
Yeah, wow.
95% of Gen Z uses YouTube. 50% say they could not live without YouTube.
Life is over.
And so channeling that platform and using it to answer people's questions, recognizing that YouTube is a search engine, is a great way to begin getting into video. I saw a great tweet just before we jumped onto this recording, and a person posed the question, where should a church start? Live streaming or YouTube? And I just was licking my lips, all right, here we go. I'm just taking my shirt off. I'm sitting down. I'm like,
we come back from lunch. Brady's sitting at his desk with no shirt on.
just stretching it out. And I just said, YouTube has the audience. YouTube is free.
Yeah.
YouTube does not require expensive gear. It is not close which one represents the better opportunity. The difficulty is that it's going to require you as a church to make a shift and understand communication in a new way. Most churches are unwilling or unable to do so, but that means there is so much opportunity here.
What's interesting about the 3 examples that this user gave, Fortnite dance-off, food challenges, and leveraging existing trends, is that none of them are inherently spiritual, and that's okay, because that's what these kids are into. They're kids. And so go to where they are. Stop calling them to where you are. Go to where they are on the platform where they are, which we know right now is YouTube, and meet them there and begin a conversation. And that'll turn into, spiritual conversations about existential hope and community and destiny and purpose and all that stuff. But for an entry point, make a video about Fortnite dance-offs and start a conversation there.
Third way churches are planning on reaching Gen Z, quote, I've discovered that millennials and Gen Z alike are looking for authenticity. Mm-hmm. So the more content you show and share that breaks down barriers, the better. Pics of actual people in your actual building versus stock images, that makes a big difference. Not being afraid to talk about current topics in a relevant way is a big win. Overall, be authentic, be genuine, be open. Yeah. We talk about the concept of leading with vulnerability. Every single person you know is going through something that they feel unable to talk about with others. Jesus talks about bearing each other's burdens. He talks about casting burdens upon himself because his burden is light. And that is, I think, the call of the church, that we can share our burdens with one another, but it requires someone to be vulnerable first.
Yeah.
And growing up with as many brand messages as Gen Z and millennials did, we have a BS meter that is incredibly finely tuned. Yeah. If you are not being real, we can detect it from a mile away. Yeah. So stop trying to put a front on. Stop trying to be something you're not. Talk about the real things. Talk about the unfinished. Talk about the still in process. And now you've opened up a conversation, and you've led with vulnerability, allowing us to be vulnerable. And now we've got something real now.
That is so good. Hit me with tip number 4.
Number 4, give them real service opportunities and responsibilities. Let them know that they are vital to church life and not just consumers. Mm-hmm. All of our AV was run by teens last Sunday with no adults, about 7 teens total. Wow. These teens are invested in our church, and we are investing in them. I posted an Instagram story this weekend, and I said that it's all millennials and young people doing church this week. Every single person on stage, preaching, hosting, worship. My church was giving opportunities to these young people, and they were like, we're valued, let's dive in. Again, it's just about empowering young people that are ready to dive in. You just need to call it out in them. You've got the power. You're in charge. Invite them in. They're ready. They just need that ask.
Yeah, and I love that language that this user, used. When you make a decision to invest in them, give them an opportunity, they'll reciprocate that. Mm-hmm. They'll invest in you, and all of a sudden, you'll have a group of young people in your church that a lot of our churches are looking for right now. We're lacking a group of vibrant young people. Start investing in some. They'll invest in you, and before you know it, you'll have a house packed full of young people who are ready and willing to serve and help your church in any way that they can.
Final way that churches are planning to reach Generation Z or Gen Z, depending on, Canadian
depending on what English you speak.
We have found that our teens and young adults are very action-oriented. They don't want to just hear about Jesus on Sundays. They want to go and do. Wow. We even canceled a Sunday service to do a mission project, and the turnout was huge.
Amazing.
People will go out of their way if they know that they'll be directly helping someone else. Yeah. This is a hallmark of young people. They want to be involved in making a difference. We all have these Sunday gatherings where we come to a service, we come to a building to talk and sit together. Well, what if you did what this person did, what this church did, took a Sunday off and went and did something? That would be huge, I think, for young people.
I mean, millennials, Gen Z, we seem to have this spiritual gift of activism, and sometimes it's used for good, sometimes it's used for not so good, but regardless, it's there. And so if we can acknowledge that and leverage that as churches, we'll see young people, and not just young people, but everyone in our church alike, actually mobilize and become the hands and feet of Jesus. And honestly, that's what this is all about.
Featured resource we wanted to highlight in this episode of Pro Church Daily is the Ultimate Church Growth Calculator spreadsheet. If you're measuring church growth right now by attendance only, you are missing out. There are 17 different next steps that you should be tracking to really understand your church's health and growth. This calculator is free. I put it together, calculates everything for you automatically. Link for that will be in the show notes, so check it out, download it, begin using it. Get your unique church growth score today. With all that being said, that'll do it for this episode of Pro Church Daily. We'll see you next time. Hey, thanks for watching this episode of Pro Church Daily. Make sure that you subscribe to this channel so you never miss another video.
Hey, and we need a good hit of dopamine. Will you like this video?